I want to start immediately by saying that if you consider being tunneled or slugged or camped in Dead by Daylight to be toxic, then you are bad at the game. There, I said it. I think you are bad at the game if you consider these things toxic, right? And I literally was writing a script this past couple days because of the new 9.2 changes that got postponed because I just thought it was interesting in what direction the developers wanted this game to go. But now they said, hey, we're gonna cancel this for now, and we're gonna make some changes before we implement them in the live game. And recently I saw this post on Reddit, which biggest mistake, but it's about someone complaining about being slugged and saying that, hey man, these killers must be celebrating that these changes got cancelled. So I even commented. I tried to have a conversation with this guy, but some people, the average redditor can't comprehend certain things. So let's watch this video, and I want to talk about why I personally think that not only being tunneled and slugged and camped in Dead by Daylight is not toxic. I genuinely think they should be in the game, and they actually make you better at the game. So let's watch this and see what's going on. So already we can see that the person's on the ground. So because the bar isn't there's barely any progress on the bar, means that they either just got downed or they didn't spend any time recovering at all. The killer is over here, and they just seen the other teammate that is injured, and we can see there's another teammate really far away hiding. Now I'm gonna say this map is okay, this map is terrible, so I can't really blame them, but at the same time you are out in the open and this teammate is out in the open, right? Near the killer, all right? So I don't know how you got in this situation. Either there was a pallet nearby but we can't see anything, or maybe you did loop at shack, which is on the left side, and maybe the window blocked after you vaulted it enough times. But either way, you're downed out in the open, so already looks pretty bad, right? So let's see what's going on here, right? So they're on the ground, the killer sees this guy, they're going for them, he immediately goes down. Okay, I don't know what they were doing. Maybe there was a pallet there, we can't really see. And again, there's another one over here. So this guy got downed. This guy's trying to recover. Now he's not recovering, he's just moving around. The killer is coming back. Now the killer is giving back shots. I won't deny, killer giving back shots, that's kind of insane. I do think this kind of behavior is toxic. I think teabagging and giving back shots that's not the same, but I do think teabagging and giving back shots is overall pretty toxic. But let's continue. So we can see that the third teammate is hiding downstairs. They're not even bothering trying to help this guy, while the killer is busy with giving back shots to this player. So this keeps going. They're not even trying to look. They're not even trying to recover. Like, what if something happens, and you're at 99. Let's say best case scenario, this teammate is actually nearby, ready to heal you up. Maybe they have "We're gonna live forever," right? And you get that, and they can get you up. But I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of the teammates' fault that they're not doing anything, but at the same time you're not recovering, you're not moving away. Like, you could move in the opposite direction to waste the killer's time, because there's another guy slug here. So at this point, you and these teammates, you guys are both at fault, right? You guys aren't doing anything at all, and you're overall just making the situation worse for no reason. Again, you can recover, you can crawl away from here, but you're not doing anything. You're probably just at your computer, like, this guy, I'm so pissed off, he got me. But that's not the case. Okay, so The only at this point this guy is doing the only right thing. They're just trying to recover because who knows, maybe they have something, maybe this guy will come up here and pick them up. But we're watching, so now they continue to give the back shots and they grab you. Okay, fine, they grab you and you give up. You don't even struggle. I mean, it doesn't matter that because the hook is right here, but you didn't even bother because who knows, again, you never know what might happen. So again, you give up, you die, and that's kind of about it, right? So I won't deny the killer hitting you on hook and giving you back shots is toxic, but you getting slugged is not toxic. So that's about what happens, right? Now let's see. So he said, yeah. So guess these people are happy about the anti-tunneling and slugging changes being cancelled. Okay, and then this person said, yes, she slugged for the 4K, which I don't think that's a problem. As a killer, you should kill them. You should do anything you can to kill them. If you want to go for the 4K, you go for the 4K, right? Maybe she's doing, maybe the killer is doing a challenge. But let's scroll and let's see. So I said here, I understand this can be frustrating, which, you know, I think that's a great way to start. You know, like I agree. I think getting repeatedly slugged or tunneled, and you know the killer also being toxic by giving back shots, you know, it's frustrating, right? Nobody likes that. But and then I said, but did anyone even brought the necessary tools to fight against this playstyle, right? If you hate slugging so much, you should consider bringing the right tools so in the future you can counter it. And we can look at the build. So obviously Vigil with an exhaustion perk because, you know, the easiest thing you can do. I'm surprised it's not Sprint Burst. Don't have a healing perk, which is nice. And I'm not gonna lie, Shoulder the Burden, that's a really nice anti-tunneling perk for your teammates. But I genuinely think Shoulder Burden is the worst perk you can bring in solo queue because, like, can you guarantee that the teammate that's being tunneled is not gonna go down again in 10 seconds? You kind of just trade the hook state for no reason, right? So I don't think Shoulder the Burden is the best in solo queue unless you know when and how to use it. And you might as well play something else that's altruistic. Plus, it doesn't seem like it brought you any value. Either way. So I said, I don't see Unbreakable Conviction or We're Gonna Live Forever in your build. And we looked at the build, they don't have anything to counter it. I know in this situation, We're Gonna Live Forever wouldn't do anything, but you know, it's just nice to have at least one option because here I said, let's continue reading. Did one of your teammates brought one of these perks? Because, you know, even one person bringing Unbreakable or something like that can completely turn the tables around. Besides, I see one of your teammates hiding there. I said it because it's like you're frustrated. You're frustrated in this situation, but one of your teammates is not really helping. So, you know, it is what it is. And I said I use We're Gonna Live Forever, and when killers try to slug, I can negate the pressure they're trying to create, which is true. Every time I play and the killer tries to slug, if I'm not the first one to go down, I can completely negate all the pressure because I have We're Gonna Live Forever. I said, not gonna lie, you could replace shoulder with We're Gonna Live Forever if you want to be altruistic, because he will make it, so it's a bit an altruistic build. Or Unbreakable, because you know Unbreakable is more consistent and since it benefits you, so you know you're gonna get rewarded for it, right? So kind of makes sense, right? If you feel like you're being constantly pressured by these play styles, you should consider bringing, you know, a solution to it, right? And then this said survivors shouldn't be forced to bring certain perks to avoid playstyles. I was about myself when I read this. Killers can bring whatever they want and still tunnel and slug because it's easy to do. It's easy to do, but it's a high risk, high reward. And obviously in this situation, the killer got rewarded because you guys kind of suck, right? Like if we go back here, like you can see you're on the ground here, your teammate just got down next to you. Again, the map does suck, but what the is this teammate doing? Like see, I don't know what you were doing. You got down in the middle of nowhere, so you probably did the same stuff as this guy, but you guys misplayed, you guys made a mistake and you got punished for it, and the killer got rewarded for it. And then this said those things need to be addressed ASAP. Oh my god, bro, I am so pissed off at this, because saying that survivors shouldn't bring certain perks to avoid this kind of playstyle is the dumbest thing you can say in your entire life if you've played DBD. Because first thing, same goes for killer. Killers need to bring slowdown perks, because otherwise the gens are gonna start completely flying, right? They're gonna start completely flying. You're gonna lose like 2 free gens in the first like minute and a half of the game, right? So killers are basically forced into bringing these perks, because otherwise they'll be punished. Like, what's gonna happen when the killer goes against a Swift, or even worse, just a decent team? Survivors have become so good at, or not good, I'm kind of glazing a bit. Survivors have become competent enough to understand that, hey, we should do gens fast because we can escape faster, right? So even against a decent team, if you don't bring any slowdown, you're gonna get completely cooked as a killer. So I don't want to hear this, oh, I shouldn't have to bring these perks to fight this playstyle, because like it goes both ways, right? There's a reason meta exists. There is a reason certain perks are being used more than others, because they bring more value. And also, the whole thing about the perks is that you can choose your playstyle. You want to go with a healing build, you can do that. You can put 4 healing perks and try to take advantage of it. If you think you're getting, tunneled a lot, you can put a decisive strike and off the record and all these other perks that will let you compete against this, right? So this dumbass said this thing, and then I said that is completely true, because in a way, like, I do agree that you don't have to bring certain perks to counter a playstyle, but then I said, if you aren't willing to adapt, I don't want to see people complain. If you're not gonna bring Unbreakable, if you're not gonna bring Decisive Strike, if you're not gonna bring We're Gonna Live Forever, if you're not gonna bring a Reassurance, if you're not gonna bring what other perk, like, I don't know, Babysitter or Borrow Time, if you're not gonna bring these perks, then you need to take responsibility of the consequences, right? So I said you have the choice to use the tools that are available to, because that's true. Here's the question: why are you playing Vigil with Life or Vigil with any exhaustion perk? Because you know this is really strong. You know you can get away really easily. Vigil lets you use Life more, and Life is very easy to trigger on vaults. So why are you playing with this? Because you know these are tools that help you get away from the killer, right? Why are you playing Will Make It? Because you know it's a really good perk, a really good healing perk, Why are you playing Shoulder the Burden? Because you know it's a really good anti-tunnel perk for your teammates. So why are you bringing these perks, but you're not bringing other perks? Because they're valuable, because they help you with a certain playstyle, right? It's obvious that you're using Vigil and Life to get away from the killer, and you're playing Shoulder and Will Make It for a more altruistic playstyle. So why are you playing these perks, but you're complaining about bringing other perks? See, it doesn't make any sense, because it's obvious that you have a certain playstyle and you had the choice to use 4 perks, and you decided to bring these 4 perks. I said, if you don't want to, you need to take responsibility. And yes, the killer can still tunnel, camp, or slug, because they're killers. Yeah, no, they're fucking killers. That's their whole thing. They have these options because they can hurt the survivors. That's kind of the whole thing. The killers can damage you without the need of any perk. Their whole point is to kill you. That's why they're named the killers. And you not wanting to adapt to the killer killing you is on you. I think that's pretty straightforward, but I know some people are too stupid to understand. And I said they need to do what's necessary to eliminate them. What I just said. At the end of the day, it's a PvP game. And I think a lot of people don't realize how important this line is. Dead by Daylight is a PvP game, right? It's you versus the enemy. You have to do what's necessary to fight against your opponents. Imagine playing chess. Okay, let me give you this. Imagine playing chess. You make a mistake. Your opponent takes away your queen, and then you say, bro, that's so toxic. Did you just took my queen? I was about to checkmate you and you took my queen? You're so toxic. That is this entire mentality. This entire mentality is is what I just said. Like someone takes away your queen in chess, and you're like, bro, you're so toxic for taking my queen. So yeah, let's go on. I said perks are obviously in the game to help you and customize your playstyle experience, which I just said. Again, if you want to play with a healing build, that's nice. If you want to use anti-tunnel stuff, that's fine. If you want to go with a gen rush build, that's completely fine, right? But if you go with a gen rush build, you need to understand that you won't have the tools to combat tunneling or slugging, or like you won't be able to heal your teammates really fast, right? You're sacrificing those things to be able to do generators faster. The only way to counter killers without the need of any perk is to be really good at looping. And I'm surprised that to this day people don't understand. The reason you get tunneled, the reason you get camped, the reason you get slugged is because the killer caught you and they downed you. And you probably weren't good enough at looping. And even if you were, it happens. You get caught. That's the whole thing. So I don't want to see people complain, because in my opinion, if you complain, you are bad at the game. If you complain about this, not just in general, but about these specific situations, you are bad at the game. People don't take the experience of being tunneled into a learning experience. I will say this from my personal experience. I kind of used to think like this before. I used to say, yo, this is so cringe. But then I realized that tunneling and looping the killer is the only times you actually really interact with your opponent in this game, right? Because if you're not being in chase, you're just sitting on a generator hitting skill checks. How are you gonna get better at the game if you're playing Osu Guitar Hero on a generator, right? Like, I'm not crazy for saying this. If you're just gonna sit on a generator and click the spacebar once every 20 seconds, you're not gonna get better at looping. So I said, I'll be honest, I'm pretty bad at looping. Like I'm not good at the game, but I accept that I'm not good and I want to get better. But I feel that every time I go down, slug, camp, or tunnel, it's completely on me, right? Like I accept that it's my fault if I get completely, down. And then I said, actually, it's in situations like this when I truly want to figure out a way to do my best and out to the killer. Exactly. When I'm being tunneled, when I'm being focused by the killer, I need to think ways of countering the killer and trying to escape. So when I'm put in these situations, I need to do my best to do what I can with the resources that I have and the knowledge that I have to counter my opponent. If you play Dead by Daylight and you were never chased once in your entire life, the first time you'd get chased by the killer, you wouldn't know what to do. You wouldn't know what to do because you never got chased by the killer. And it's kind of like this. The less you get chased, the less you get tunneled, the less you get focused by the killer, the less you'll know how to fight against them. I don't think that's crazy to say. Playing the game more should over time get you better at the game. If the more you get chased by the killer, the better you'll get at the game. But people don't want to accept that. They just want to say, oh my god, I'm being focused by the killer, I'm being tunneled, I'm being slugged. This game is tough. Why aren't you using this experience to actually learn, right? Because let's be honest, when you are not being chased by the killer, Dead by Daylight is boring as. Dead by Daylight is just sitting on a generator, hitting a skill check, or opening a chest, or healing a teammate. Being tunneled is the most fun you can have in Dead by Daylight. And then this fucker said, the killers didn't want to adapt to the anti-tunneling and slugging changes. And this gotta be some level 100 rage bait. You need to understand that what behavior was trying to do in the 9.2 update is that they were trying to force killers into the most boring and linear playstyle. If you tried to go a different route, you would get severely punished. Those changes wouldn't make Dead by Daylight Dead by Daylight. They would make Dead by Daylight like Dungeons and Dragons, when the survivors are players and the killer is the dungeon master. That is not interesting, that is not unique. You're taking away the core gameplay of Dead by Daylight and you're just making it extremely boring and repetitive. If I don't have to bother thinking about countering the killer in a certain situation because they are forced to play in a certain way, I will not get better. I said because the changes are unhealthy for the core game. If you even bother reading them and think about the outcomes, you'd know, which is true. If you used your brain and you actually read the patch notes, you'd understand why these changes were completely unhealthy for the game. But a lot of people don't wanna realize that actually there are several YouTubers, especially survivor mains, that said, hey, these changes are really bad for the game. They shouldn't come out. Survivor mains, people that play survivors, a lot. They said that those killer changes are not good for the game. And I said, those changes force killers to have a very linear, repetitive, and boring playstyle. You can do only one thing, and at times that thing isn't even enough. You get punished for everything else. And there isn't anything exciting for both sides. What I just said. If the killer is forced to play in one exact way, and you know why that way is, there's no reason to innovate. There's no reason to bother trying because you know what the killer is gonna do. You just gotta do the opposite, and wow, congrats, you just win because, you know. Anyways, so then I said, if you just want to sit on gens the entire time and hit skill checks, that's fine, but you need to be honest with yourself. And I think that's facts. If you want to play Dead by Daylight just to hit skill checks on a generator, fine, but just accept that that's what you want to do. Don't pull out this that, oh, this is toxic, this is not okay, this needs to be removed because it bothers me. No, just accept that you are bad at the game. All right. Then I said, plus there are several clips from YouTubers when playing the PTB when they got affected by the anti-titan penalties. Starva, for example. I'll try to search the clip. If I don't find it, it's probably because I'm lazy. When they literally had no other choice. The game should never put the killer in a lose-lose situation. If the killer is in a perpetual lose-lose situation, the game is in the most unhealthy and awful state ever. And then I said, those changes only punish weak killers while benefiting unskilled survivors, which is true. So you're punishing the weak killers, and what's gonna happen is survivors that are bad at the game, they will take these changes as a leverage, as crutches, right? They will use them as crutches, and instead of trying to get better, they'll just say, oh, I don't need to do better, I got free Unbreakable. I didn't need to do better, I got free Anti-Tunnel, right? I don't need to do better because I got this thing, right? So survivors will, these changes would actually make survivors worse because they use these changes as crutches. I don't need to get better at the game because the game is already giving me that. I don't need to get better because, you know, I'm not getting punished for my mistakes. And then I said, if these changes do come to the game, you'll only see Ghoul, Nurse, and Blight, and nobody wants that because these three characters are the strongest killers. Survivors still won't be able to loop for 10 seconds longer because they're used to having their hand held. What I just said, you're gonna add this many benefits to the survivor, and you're gonna punish the survivor way less or not at all in certain situations. They won't get better. They won't know how to loop. So you could give all survivors all this free stuff, all these changes, but they won't get better because the game, the moment they get into the game, their hands are being held. They're like little babies, right? The game is playing for them. They're no longer playing the game for themselves. The game is playing for them. And I said, I'm being very objective here because I when in this kind of arguments, I do want to be extremely objective. And then I said, you want to call the other side bad for not wanting to adapt and have a certain playstyle, yet you are in the exact same boat. Literally what I was talking the entire time. You have the options to fight back, you have the options to counter these playstyles, but you'll say, I shouldn't have to bring perks to fight these playstyles. Then get if you don't want to bother adapting, then you have no right to complain about killers being affected by these changes, right? So it's either no one or it's everybody, right? And then I said, if you aren't willing to understand what I just said here in my previous comment, then I'm sorry, you've either been brainwashed, you're frustrating from the game, because I understand sometimes you're so frustrated, your mind is still foggy, or maybe Dead by Daylight isn't for you. You could try playing killer to understand the other side. Or what's gonna happen is you're gonna go back to playing Survivor, and when something that doesn't go your way happens, you're going to complain, and you are stuck in a loop of frustration, and you're not willing to break or learn from it. You're not willing. Here's a problem that I've realized is that despite Dead by Daylight, while it is true they have two sides, the killer and the survivor, I genuinely believe the best and the healthiest players in the community are the ones that play both sides 50-50. If you play both sides equally, you understand the game to the best level. But when you have someone that is playing only one side, if you're only playing Survivor and you never touched killer once, you are never gonna understand the killer's perspective. And that's when you have stuff like this, where you get angry at the killer, but you don't even understand the core gameplay loop of Dead by Daylight. You do not understand the game. So yeah, so I said this stuff, and then I said that maybe try playing other games. Dead by Daylight isn't for everybody, and that's completely okay, which is true. Dead by Daylight isn't for everyone, especially now. Dead by Daylight is so anti-new player friendly. I think Dead by Daylight is in a state where you gotta go out of your way to learn it. You can still learn the game by just playing it, but if you just watch one YouTube tutorial, like, it will help you a ton. So that's kind of everything I have to say. If we go back to all I said, overall, I genuinely believe that being tunneled, camped, slugged, anything, it's your responsibility. You can't be angry at someone for your own mistakes. If you're not willing to adapt, then accept that you're gonna suffer the consequences. That's all I have to say. If you're not willing to adapt, accept the consequences that you're about to face. You have the options to combat this, but you don't want to. You just want your hand to be held. Look at this. You got downed in the middle of nowhere. You didn't bring any perk to combat this. So I don't want to see this kind of behavior. I don't want to see this kind of stuff where people complain, but they don't do anything to adapt or counter this playstyle. And I'm not even saying bring the perks. You actually don't have to bring the perks, but you need to understand that you have to be really good at looping, which, again, all these people complaining about being tunneled and slugged are really bad at the game. You are bad at the game. So either invest your time to adapt and get better, or you can not do that, and what's gonna happen is you're gonna keep complaining. So I think this is a very I do think this is a very I don't want to say sensitive subject, but controversial. Yeah, I think this is a very controversial theme in Dead by Daylight, but I think only a few people are willing to actually listen and accept what I have to say. It really boggles my mind that people like this really think and exist. But my genuine question is this: I genuinely, well, not really question, but I genuinely believe most of these people, they don't even play other games. I know it sounds insane, but I genuinely believe these people never played any other PvP game. Shooters like Counter-Strike or Valorant or Overwatch. I know that these games are kind of bad, but you haven't played other PvP games, so you don't understand how they work. So when you're playing an asymmetrical PvP game, which I do agree is very different, like you don't want to accept that you're bad or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like all this stuff, all this pointing fingers. I don't know, like I feel like if you play any other PvP game, any PvP game out there, you wouldn't have this mindset of pointing fingers and calling other people toxic for playing the game. If you think tunneling and camping and slugging shouldn't be in Dead by Daylight, then you should not be playing this game. This game is not for you. You need to accept that and, I don't know, play something else like Minecraft or Stardew Valley. I don't know, just anything else, because it's obvious that the PvP games aren't for you. I don't know. I got a bit heated, but I genuinely wanted to get this off my chest because I genuinely believe that overall it's for like accepting that tunneling and slugging aren't toxic genuinely will help the community. But people have been so brainwashed. People have been so brainwashed into thinking that these things are inherently evil, because I think because they've been so forced into believing that the only way the killer should play is by hooking, they can't comprehend that tunneling and slugging are a part of the game. The only way to counter, or the only way to remove tunneling and slugging is by removing hooks overall. The only way to remove tunneling and slugging is by completely remaking the entire game. The entire base game of Dead by Daylight, but that's never gonna happen. So what's gonna happen in the future? The devs are gonna add more changes to help survivors that aren't willing to adapt, and that's about it, right? The only reason tunneling and slugging exists is because hooking exists. So if you don't want these things, then you need to remove hooking from the game. But then what are you gonna replace it with? I just think people shouldn't look at tunneling and slugging and camping as such negative things. I genuinely think they're necessary for the game. They create, different playstyles and different outcomes of the game. Survivors, like they can gen rush, like you have to do anything to fight your opponent. And again, if you're not willing to adapt, then you either will remain in this state of always complaining, or you gotta play something else, or just get better at the game. So in conclusion, tunneling and slugging is only toxic if you're bad at the game. Thanks for watching.